the commandos in France. It came out day one, and now it's even the Jerusalem Post and Italian newspapers, that the guy was working with French intelligence. He was protected. Somebody else videotaped it. The whole thing was staged to get Sarkozy in. I mean, now it isn't taking months for that to come out. It's immediately coming out. It's a false flag. Now it's coming out the Hatari militia weren't planning attacks, and it was all a setup. And the judge did the right thing and is saying drop the charges. A crisis point is being reached, and I see the system trying now to kind of hide things in plain view. They've gone from denying it to hiding it in plain view, and I see some people out there that say, oh, there's no hope, oh, the elite are invincible. I'm finding the opposite. I'm finding that when we do get off our knees, as your last book was called, that all we have is power. All we do is win if we don't care about the ridicule. It's almost like a spiritual thing, that if you give into the ridicule when you're called a conspiracy theorist for questioning known liars, then somehow, that like gives power to the other side. But when you know you're telling the truth and speak out against it and take action, it's having incredible things. I want to get into your experience in Hawaii. As you said before we went on air, you want to talk about this point of nowhere to run. But before we do that, why do you think Petraeus has come out and admitted what we've known for a decade, that all new appliances have tech, data over power line, listening, watching, Google watching, beyond 1984, cell phones, toasters, clock radios. They're now admitting life extension and life reversal that the elite have, that cloning for decades. Speak on those issues as we get into more. Why are they suddenly trying to hide it in plain view?
Well, I think a number of reasons, and in a way they're almost always psychological, because this is a mind game. The few cannot control the many physically. They can do it. You can do it in small areas with tanks in the streets and soldiers at the door, but you can't do it to 7 billion people. There's not enough of you, even when you recruit your law enforcement from the target population, which there's so few of them, that's what they have to do. So it's a mind game. It's a psychological game. I think there's two things going on here. On one level, the more that they're telling us it's happening, the more people are getting used to it that aren't aware of the implications. And also, the more they're saying, see, we have all the power, we can do what we like, and on that level of psychology. But on another side to it, and I agree with what you've just said in relation to this, I've been saying for years that there's a race going on. There's no question that the world is waking up. No question. I mean, last year I did 45,000 miles in the air, 1.5 times around the world, country, continents, of many different and various kinds. This wake up is universal. It's planet-wide. And they are now desperate to get the control structure in place before enough people wake up, see it, and then cross that road I've just been talking about, cross the street, and bring the house of cards down. Because it is a house of cards, because we, humanity, asleep humanity, are holding the house of cards together. That's why it's standing up there. And so there's a race going on to get as much control, surveillance, external manipulation of our minds, which is what these smart meters and smart grids and all this other stuff is about, before the wake up is fatal to the control system. And so they're racing and racing and racing on. And what they're doing, because they're racing on so fast, is they can't hide it anymore. They're having to bring it in so fast. They can't be in any way subtle like they were before, and covert and hiding it. So we're seeing it. Not only that, the more that people awaken, the more they see it, what they wouldn't see before, what these people could have got away with like 10, 20 years ago, which would have been off the radar of the vast majority of humanity, is now on the radar. You know, shows like this and people who have been putting this information out for the last 20 years, what they're doing is they're bringing the subliminal to the conscious mind. And this is having a massive effect in people seeing things they couldn't see before. If you look at a subliminal advertisement, you won't see the subliminal messages and images in it overwhelmingly. And then when somebody points out where they are, every single time you see that advert forever, the first thing you see are the subliminal images and messages you couldn't see before. Why? Because the pointing them out has brought them from the subliminal below threshold to the conscious mind, and now there's no hiding place for them. And this is another reason why it's becoming more blatant, because it is more blatant, but it's becoming more blatant to the observer because we're now seeing what we couldn't see before. Where, if you like, our radar is picking it up as it wasn't before.
People are awake. They're now more conscious. So it's not just that it's more blatant, it's that we are now more awake. Now, expanding on that, you probably haven't had a chance to see it yet. For months, everybody was bringing this up to me. They'd read the books. It's a bestseller up there now with Harry Potter. The Hunger Games. Well, I finally saw it, David, and it is 100% Agenda 21, directly out of the UN Biological Diversity Assessments, with a super high-tech elite of less than 1% in armored walled cities within controlled cities, monorail, exterminated 90% of the population, the rest of us living in feudal squalor, basically kept at a subsistence level, and this high-tech false reality that they're building, and gladiatorial games and human sacrifice of children. Now, you and I know, studying this, that's all the ancient cultures, that's what this dark force builds. But people say, well, it's good, it's exposing it, because it's everything we've talked about to a T. But no, when the subconscious group sees it, it puts power over them by the system to be conditioned and acclimated. Because when something's subliminal, it gives the system power. But when you're conscious, it gives you power. And so it's almost a race for them to get everybody acclimated as they roll this out. I just wanted to get your take on the Hunger Games, or to ask if you've heard of it or what you think of that statement.
No, I've not seen it because I've been traveling. But yes, absolutely. See, once you start to realize what this reality is, a lot of things start to make sense, because these people in the shadows, deeply in the shadows, they know what reality is, and therefore they know how to manipulate it because they know how we're interacting with it. And if you look at the so-called solid physical world, it's not. I mean, quantum physics can point this out very simply. It's an illusory physical reality, which is actually holographic. And the base foundation of this reality is waveform information fields, which are decoded through what I call the biological computer, because that's how they see it. To these people, you talk about the mice and stuff, Alex, earlier. To these people, the body is a piece of biological technology. And they can manipulate it to decode a certain amount of reality, but not a greater amount of reality.
Sure.
Just as in China, they firewall off the computer system, so Chinese people can't see a vast amount of the internet that the rest of us can see, well, up to now anyway. So you can do it with the biological computer, because the DNA, for instance, is now becoming established, is a receiver transmitter of information. And if you can squeeze the frequency on which it receives and transmits, you squeeze the reality that we are experiencing. And where I'm going with this is, so everything is an information field, a waveform information field, including the body. And there's a wonderful story that really encapsulates just how illusory this reality is and what I'm saying here. That's told in a book by a guy called Michael Tolbert many years ago now, called The Holographic Universe. And he told the story of how his father had a party and had a stage hypnotist come along to do party tricks. And he had this guy sitting down called Tom. And he said to the guy, when I bring you back to a waking state, you're not going to be able to see your daughter in the room. And so he brings then the daughter, stands her right in front of the father, so he's looking in her belly. And he brings him back from apparently from the trance and says, can you see your daughter in the room, Tom? And Tom's looking around. He's looking in her belly. He's saying, no, I can't. Everyone's laughing. They can see her. He can't. So the hypnotist then goes behind the daughter, puts his hand in the small of her back, and says to the father on the other side of her, I'm holding something, Tom. What am I holding? And to him, it was obvious. He said, what are you holding? A watch. He says, there's an inscription on the watch, Tom. What does it say? And he leaned forward, he read the inscription. His daughter's between him and the watch. Now, this is the reason. His daughter, like all of us, like everything in this reality, is a waveform information field. We decode it into a holographic physical reality, but actually it's a waveform information field. Now, if we don't do that, if we don't decode the information field into a holographic reality, then whatever we're not decoding doesn't exist in the realm of the conscious mind. So what the hypnotist has done is put a firewall in this guy's mind, in this guy's brain, so it's not decoding the waveform energy field of the daughter. Therefore, he's not decoding it through into holographic reality. In his reality, she's not there. Therefore, he can see behind her. Everyone else in the room who's not been subject to that firewall is seeing her.
And now, David,
this is a very important area. Just very quickly, Alex. This means we have to look at symbolism and all these symbols put around us in another light, because these symbols are not just like, you know, people holding torches and eyes and stuff. They are information fields, and they put them around us because they are speaking to us. They are exchanging information with us on a subconscious level. And it's a whole psychological game to implant in all the ways that you've discussed, and I'm talking now.
They're program prompters.
Into the subconscious, and then that filters through as a conscious thought, a conscious response, an emotional response, which we take to be us, and it's not. It's information that's been put in there for us to believe is our thoughts and emotions.
Well, I totally agree with you, and there's the analogy of the Earth suit. But if you really think about it, it's like the internet is the universe, the iPhone is the limited system that is experiencing that. That would be the body, or it's the way the cerebral cortex of the left and right lobe is our, quote, conscious focusing, but it's tying into our overall brain that is hundreds of times more powerful. And that's in 101, as you know, marketing. That's taught in college. Subliminals is just part of marketing for hundreds of years, but the general public is taught it's all a joke and doesn't exist. It's a conspiracy theory that anything else exists or anyone is manipulating me. That is the hypnotist of the system telling people nothing exists outside of my voice. And we notice that good hypnotists will first call 10 people up, ask them questions. They can tell off cues who is suggestible. They'll send back 80% of the people they call up, but keep a couple of them. And then the person is willing to do it. But when you're born put in front of a television, when you're born with the chemicals in food and water, all of this happening, the sperm counts dropping, the testosterone, the women all screwed up, the thyroid problems, the overall brainwaves lowering, the fertility, they are killing us. So how do the chemicals, which they're obviously increasing the levels of, we're exposing it, so now they're on the news going, yeah, lithium in the water, Prozac in the water, statins, that's now out in the open, chemtrails, aluminum, they're obviously increasing the chemical bombardment. How high will they turn it up? Will it work? It doesn't seem to be working.
Well, what we're actually looking at, Alex, is a situation which refers back to what we were talking about earlier about the wake up. I've been talking now for